You are listening to I Am Refocused Radio with your host, Shamaya Reed. This show is designed to inspire you to live your purpose and regain your focus. And now, here's your host, Shamaya Reed.
Welcome to I Am Refocused Radio. Once again, we are here today. We have another show lined up for y'all. We are going to be diving into the power of storytelling with our guest today. She is an author who's on a mission, and she's going to help you guys get inspired today. Because when it comes to fantasy worlds, she has a amazing book that we're going to be talking about. And it's inspired by a true story, true real life story. First and foremost, I want to tell you first about her. She is our guest, T.L. Mccoy. She is the founder of Blue Round Book Group, LLC. And you can go to her website, roundbookgroup.com. And like I said, the story is inspired by real life of her granddaughter who battles Dravet Syndrome. And it is a rare life-threatening seizure disorder. Her book, we're going to learn more about it. I don't even want to give the title yet because I want to give her the honors to tell us all about the project. So first and foremost, I want to say to you, TL, thank you for being here. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me on your show. I appreciate it.
Well, I appreciate you. Tell us a little bit about the project of the book. What's the title? And a little bit about your granddaughter.
Sure. So the book is, and I have it by me, it's called Delilah versus the Ghastly Grimm. And it's a middle grade fantasy book that I wrote for my grandchild who, as you said, was diagnosed with Dravet Syndrome. A lot of people don't know what Dravet Syndrome is. It is a rare and sometimes catastrophic seizure disorder that is caused by a mutation in the SCN1A gene. And so these seizures are not like how most people would envision seizures that last a very short period of time. A lot of these kids are diagnosed, the vast majority, in their first year of life. So they get the seizures starting very young. The seizures can be very extreme where they last a very long time, like 40, 50, even over an hour, 50 minutes over an hour kind of seizure. It can cause a cascade of other symptoms. Some of these kids can't walk, they can't talk, they need lifelong care. And some of them can. It works like autism almost, like there's a spectrum where some kids will be able to do more than other children. So my grandchild, she can walk, she can talk. Her speech, her articulation is problematic right now. She does go to therapy. She goes to physical, speech, and occupational therapy because of this disorder. It is an extremely complicated disorder. It can even lead to behavioral symptoms too. But it's not well known. What's interesting is June, good timing, is actually Dravet Syndrome month. So they're trying to spread awareness about Dravet Syndrome, in the month of June, colored purple kind of thing. So there are foundations out there where they have more information on it. But basically what happened was I was writing an adult book when I came across a study that there weren't a lot of inclusive books for kids with disabilities. I didn't do a deep dive into it, but the last research I read said that it was only 3.4% of books for kids have a disabled protagonist. So when I read that, I kind of got a little bit angry and upset about that because I have a grandchild with Dravet Syndrome. So I put the book I was writing aside and I started writing Delilah versus the Ghastly Grimm. And it's available on Amazon right now. You can go to my website for the link to it. And it's actually... it hit the Amazon bestseller list for children's epilepsy health and a couple other bestseller lists, and it's won several awards already. Boston Children's Hospital will have it on their epilepsy unit for the kids there. So it's starting, I think a school now is going to pick up some copies so that their kids can read it. So it's starting to get recognized because when I wrote the book, I didn't want it to be like some of the other ones that are out there, which I think they lack an authentic voice. I wanted it to not just be like, oh, the child's going to be cured by the end or something like that. No, I wanted it to remain true and for it to be empowering to children who have disabilities or even to anyone who's gone through difficulties in life, because that's really kind of where the story leads to. It's people who have been lonely, experience being bullied, experience being different or feeling different. Anyone who's been in those kind of circumstances would relate to the story.
And when you look at the development of Delilah in the book, kind of show the audience what was the process like for you to create something that was magical, entertaining, but at the same time almost displaying as an advocate for a deeper truth.
So when I went into the writing of the story, I knew I wanted it to be an inclusive book that focused on a child with a seizure disorder. And I'm going to be totally honest with you. I feel like the book wrote itself. It was a lot of times I spent a really long time considering what choices I'm going to make, and every choice in the book is fairly strategic. But I felt like it came to me naturally just from being with my grandchild. So the character's arc really starts with her feeling separate and feeling a little bit low because she felt different from others. And what I wanted to show was sometimes being different is your strength. And that's kind of her arc, where some people might say it's her weakness, her disability is her weakness, but I'm saying no, it isn't. It is her strength. In fact, her superpowers in the fantasy world are rooted in her disability. So I almost think like Daredevil. He's the only one that I could come up with at the top of my head that kind of did it right, where his strength is really rooted in his disability. And I love that arc. And that's kind of a similar arc. It's a very different story, but a similar arc for Delilah versus the Ghastly Grim.
And also in the character, Delilah, she enters a new realm through an indigo door in her mind. That is a symbol that you use. And I think that's great because it is highlighting the fact that children with disabilities sometimes face isolation. How do you hope that imagination tool can be something that will inspire other children for resilience?
And I think you're right on that. I think a lot of children with disabilities feel isolated from others and sometimes experience bullying, which increases that isolation. I wanted to show that even if there are moments where you are feeling separate from others, that doesn't mean that you are lesser than others. So when the door opens in her mind, so what happens is the seizure actually opens the indigo door in her mind and she goes to this fantasy world. And the seizure is so bad that they have to medically induce a coma, which seems complicated in a children's book, but if you read it, you'll get how it's done, where she's now trapped in this fantasy world and has to figure out a way to survive because it's dangerous. And there's a villain in there called the Ghastly Grim, which of course is also, strategically chosen to be like somebody who almost like a symbolism for, the threat of death when you have a serious disorder or disability. But as she's over there, she realizes that even though she may sometimes feel separate from others, there's power deep within her. And I want kids to recognize that, like these kids that are going through these things, they really are the superheroes. When I'm with my grandchild, it amazes me because she's always smiling. She has to go through all these physical therapies. She has her struggles, and yet somehow she remains positive. And I want to help other kids who maybe, are feeling a little bit down, look at it from a different perspective. Like, yeah, I may have these things, but maybe these things can be something that can be good. Like, I feel like a lot of people who reach levels of greatness do experience struggles, serious struggles even. And then they can turn those struggles into something that helps them reach a level that other people won't reach because they've changed their perspective on it.
Once again, listen to our Refocus Radio and watching us online, talking to our guest today, TL Mccoy. Go to her website, blueroundbookgroup.com. Get a copy of her book, Delilah versus the Ghastly Grim. One thing I want to double down on is the fact that we do have struggles. Some of the biggest names, some of the greatest influencers, some of the most profound people of human history. I believe they all had some kind of struggle. And I believe sometimes struggle plays a role of keeping a person humble and understanding that they're still human at the end of the day, no matter how much you accomplish in life, no matter how smart you might think you are, you still have something that's going to humble you. And I believe it's because we have a superpower. And in this case, superpower is something that people can be educated on, because not everybody understands what happens during a seizure. Not anyone completely understands what it's like to be on that side of the tracks, if you will, because when you don't appreciate what you can do, sometimes you don't fully understand what other people are going through. So yes, I think struggle is something that keeps us humble and keeps us in perspective that we're still humans at the end of the day. And if you're human, guess what? You're going to have some kind of pressure or challenges.
For sure. For sure. That's true. I think you're right on that. Every single one of us has been through something difficult in our lives. And how we approach that difficulty is whether we get through it or not. There's a famous scene, I don't know if you're a fan of Rocky Balboa, but there's a famous scene where he talks about how life will beat you down, but you have to keep pushing forward, kind of thing. And I feel like that's true. It's like he nailed that particular scene, because I feel like it's true, because everyone has experienced it. Everyone. Some things are a little, in this case, she got her struggles very early in life, first year of life. That's a tough time to get it. It affects everything for her. So I made a focus for that. But I think all of us can relate to having some difficulties, and it's how you approach those difficulties and your mindset that really makes the big difference.
When you look at the character Delilah, how were you able to center agency and empowerment over pity? Because it's back to what I was saying earlier. A lot of times we just don't understand. And sometimes we can kind of overkill being nice and not being sensitive to the fact that these individuals are still strong.
And I love that you brought that question up, because that's a very unique question, because I do think sometimes people in their efforts to try and be nice do fall into pity rather than understanding or trying to just supply support, kind of thing, which sometimes is needed. I made very strategic choices in the book. She has a little bit of a sassy character, to be honest with you. So I made her that way on purpose, where it's not going to be somebody where you're sitting there, you're like, oh. You probably won't be doing that. I wanted her to be somebody who was born with the disorder, who lives with this disorder. It's an authentic portrayal. It isn't something where it's like it takes over the entire story, because really it's written more like an action adventure. A child who has a disability is on a quest, kind of thing. So it isn't the whole package of the story. What I'm trying to say is, even though you might have something that makes you different, that doesn't mean you can't do things. And that is part of what is shown. She's not really pitied in the story at all. In fact, she's held up as being kind of responsible for more than others might be responsible for. So it's almost the opposite, because when she gets to the fantasy world, she's viewed as what's called the traveler from the stories of old. And there are a lot of expectations of her. So, but there are moments of weakness where she's feeling overwhelmed. But I think all of us have those moments, and those are explored very carefully in the book, where they don't fall into pity.
When you look at when you started Blue Round Book Group, what was your vision for the platform, and when it comes to advocacy and supporting disability, inclusive literature, what was the vision that you hope was going to take off from that idea?
So it's still my vision. It's a new company. I just started it this year. So I will be honest with you, releasing Delilah versus the Ghastly Grim, the marketing side ended up taking a lot more of my time than expected. When you're signed under one of the bigger publishing companies, they have multiple departments that do everything for the book. And as somebody who just started a small imprint and who wrote the book, and I also have a full-time job as a nurse, there's only so much time in the day. But ultimately, my goal is to eventually bring on other writers, and I want the company to be about books that are inclusive, books that focus on representation. Those are going to be my focus for bringing authors on as we move down the line. That's my goal for the company, and I'm hoping to do that, within the next few years. It's going to be a process. It's going to be time. There's a learning curve. I am coming in from a different field, so I'm learning as we go along. But hopefully, we can get some really good stuff out there, because I really don't think there is enough. I think the numbers prove it. As I said, I didn't do a deep dive into that number, but 3.4%, that's a crazy low number if you consider the number of people who live with disabilities. I think it's 1 in 6 the last time I saw a study on that. So, there's clearly a problem with inclusion and representation. So I would like the Blue Round Book Group to have that focus to release books that will kind of bridge that gap.
You mentioned earlier in the show that educators are reaching out wanting the book for the classrooms in front of their students. When you look at it from the lens of education, you mentioned that you are a nurse. You spent a lot of time with school. So when you look at the potential impact that not just your company, but the books that come through your company can have on education, what do you see is possible in the future through schools and what you're doing?
Well, it's funny you say that, because just this week, somebody, when they were considering it for the school, they're like, how would it be used? So I actually created a curriculum, like a kind of a plan of how it could be brought into a curriculum in a school, so that whenever you have a book like this, you can use it for reading comprehension. You can use it to explore social aspects, like how you treat people who may be different than you. You could discuss with kids who may be experiencing bullying in school, which is still a problem in some areas. And then there's mathematics. She's a math nerd, and Delilah's a math nerd in the book. So there is something very mathematical in the book, and it talks about how she carries around these math puzzles with her because she loves math. So there's math in the book that can be used in classrooms. And if you go to my website, I even have a kids corner that has like math puzzles and coloring pages and all of that for kids, so that it is really designed so that teachers can use it as a resource in school, as well as a form of entertainment. Because like I said, I kind of wrote it to be like for fans of Percy Jackson who like that fast-paced action-adventure stories that will appeal to middle grade kids. My grandchild is only 3 years old, but it wouldn't have been appropriate for me to write the book for a 3-year-old with kind of like where I had it envisioned. So I made it for middle school kids. It's got stuff in there for middle school kids, like the Fibonacci sequence. Some people know what that is, some people don't, but you'll learn what it is in the book. So it has elements in there that can be very much infused in schools and learning activities.
Once again, listen on Refocus Radio and watching us online, talking to our guest, TL Mccoy. Go to her website, blueroundbookgroup.com, and get a copy of her book, Delilah versus the Ghastly Grim. People always have options when it comes to how they want to direct their life and go through life. You are using books to illustrate not just your personal experience being a grandmother, but raising awareness. That's a choice that has led you to multiple media platforms and hitting records with book sales and top seller and all that. When you think about the process of you in the beginning of just having this idea to make this happen to the present, you're now on all these media platforms and sharing not just the vision of the book, but it's going to classrooms soon. It's almost taking a life of his own. What was your reaction just seeing how things are blooming for you?
I'm excited about the progress that we've made. We still have to make more progress. Whenever you take an undertaking like this on it comes with a great deal of challenges. I've really felt some of the barriers and obstacles. I won't lie, it's been extremely difficult at times, extremely difficult. But I think that if anybody has a dream or a pursuit that they want to go after, I don't think that you should let others erect those barriers for you. And if they are erected, I think you should take actions to tear them down. That's my opinion on it. You get one life in this. You get one life, or, depending on your beliefs. But you basically have a choice. You could let others stand in your way, or you could say, I'm not in agreement with that. What actions can I take? In this case, I'm not in agreement with the amount of books out there for kids who have disabilities. So the way I took action was to write a book and create a company. And then now I'm doing podcasts. I have a new promo video that just went up on YouTube minutes before I signed on with you. I just finished it. So, I'm taking as many actions. I'm doing as much as I can to spread awareness about Dravet Syndrome, about the issue with inclusion. And I'm hoping it catches on so that others who have shared beliefs will join with that mission. So I think that, we're happy about the progress, but I think we still have a long way to go. Hopefully, other writers will feel the same way, and they'll be putting stuff out there so that we can really bridge that gap. That is a huge gap that needs more than one person involved.
And not to bring politics into this, but one may think, what can be possibly on the table for you in putting this in front of some of the important people who make important decisions with policy? Is there maybe a future of those opportunities to get it in front of them?
I'm not particularly political. As far as my benefits, part of what I had openly stated is my goal. I'll be honest with you, it's very difficult to make any kind of money as a writer these days. Most writers can't live off being a writer. They have to work still. But if the book does make profits, my plan is to put some of those profits towards organizations that can help kids with disabilities. And then some of it will go back into the business so that I can continue with this. And then, of course, some of it, I'm a writer. So there are plans for that, but as far as a political agenda, I don't really have a political agenda so much as I just want to see more books out there that have inclusion. And if I can be a part of making that happen, that is my goal.
If you had one piece of advice that you would give to parents or grandparents who may be dealing with a child or grandchild, what would you say, words of encouragement to them as they navigate that journey with their loved one?
I would say there are support systems out there. So hopefully you have a strong family system, but there are some people who do not, and there are some who don't know how to approach, when they first get the diagnosis, they don't know how to approach the medical field. They don't know how to approach or navigate the systems to get the best kind of treatment that they can for their child or grandchild. I'm fortunate where my daughter, who's the mom of my grandchild, she's in medicine. So she did a lot of the research that made a huge difference in finding the right medication that's actually managed to control some of Delilah's seizures. So we've been very fortunate where Delilah's been seizure free now for a year. And it was a medication that wasn't originally offered to us. My daughter kind of found it through research, and we were lucky enough to find it and it be used, and we were able to wean Delilah off some of the other medications because some of those are very strong in affect development. But so it can be scary for those families who are going through this, but if you don't have a strong family support system, there are support systems online. You can reach out to organizations like the Dravet Syndrome Organization, Dravet Foundation. They have Facebook groups out there that these families are providing great support. A lot of what my daughter learned was by joining one of the Facebook groups specifically for Dravet syndrome. Now, sometimes grandparents can join, and sometimes they can't. They only want the primary family member, so it's really up to the administrators of those sites. But it would be an opportunity for you guys to get some support, and you're going to need it because there are going to be good days and there are going to be bad days, and if you have the support, you can get through it together.
Well, once again, been listening to Refocus Radio and watching us online, talking to our guest today, T.L. Mccoy. Go visit her website, bluebrownbookgroup.com. And don't forget, get a copy of the book, Delilah versus the Ghastly Grim. Like always, to you, before we officially close, is there any new updates or events, book signings, or plans that you have before this month and summer is over?
Well, we do have some people who will be coming out with Instagram videos that will be talking about the book or showing the book, who have been very supportive in what we're trying to do here. I did just release the promo video. My goal is to get up a commercial on a streaming service here soon. As far as book signings, I don't have any in place yet. Now, it's kind of I would go into why there are barriers to that so there are barriers to that for smaller companies, because most bookstores require you to allow returns kind of thing in order for them to carry it. So when you're a very small company, that can be a barrier. So we are looking to find ways to overcome that.
Well, once again, I want to say to our guest, T.L. Mccoy, like I always want to say to you, thank you for your time today.
Thank you so much for having me on your show. I really appreciate it.